Welcome to Panels and Borders. I'm Dominic. So I wanted to talk about this new Swamp Thing series that's premiering this week. There's been a lot of superhero shows that's been out in recent years, and most of them I haven't really gotten into. The last superhero show that I really got into and I got really hooked on it was Daredevil Season 1. I remember when that premiered, I just binged that first season. I thought it was really awesome and I loved it. Season 2 was pretty good, but not quite as good as Season 1, I didn't think. And I still am trying to get through Season 3. I watched the first few episodes and then kind of drifted away from it. But the first season, I just loved it. Just loved that first season. Daredevil just gobbled it right up. I thought it was awesome. But nothing's really caught my interest yet. The only thing that's kind of tweaked my interest is the new Batwoman series. I watched a trailer for that, and there were kind of cringy moments in it or whatever, but still... I think I'm going to check it out just because I really like the design of the character. I love the character's costume and stuff, and I'm a big Batman fan, so I might check out a few episodes of that. But one series that I've been just really excited for and really interested in watching is this new Swamp Thing series, because Swamp Thing is one of my favorite DC characters. So I watched the trailer a few times, and the trailer really sold me on the series. It looks dark, it's got a lot of horror elements, it doesn't look like it's cheesy at all. And it looks like they're taking it very serious, which is good. Swamp Thing is a character I always thought would make a good TV series. Now, they did have a TV series of the Swamp Thing in the early 90s, but it was really cheesy, it was really bad, so it didn't do the character justice at all. And they did a few movies. They did one, Wes Craven did one, and then they did a sequel to that one. The first one, it actually isn't too bad. It's kind of cheesy by today's standards, but for what it isn't bad, and it's one of my kind of like guilty pleasures, I guess, that first Swamp Thing movie. So if you don't know who the character of Swamp Thing is, the Swamp Thing is a DC Comics character, and he was created by Len Wein and artist Bernie Wrightson. And the character premiered in House of Secrets issue 92, July 1971. So the character is basically about a scientist, Alec Holland, who's creating a formula to help plants grow. And then some mobsters want to get the formula. And so anyway, they have a showdown, and then there's an explosion at his lab, and he gets covered in this stuff, and then he falls in the swamp and turns into the Swamp Thing. In a nutshell, that's the quick and dirty description of the character's origin. But if you want to get into the character, like you don't know anything about the character and you want to get introduced to the character, I would suggest picking up a graphic novel called Swamp Thing Dark Genesis, and it's a reprint of the first story arc that Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson did on the character, and it has Bernie Wrightson's artwork in it, and it is a very good book, and it starts right from the beginning, House of Secrets issue 92, and it goes into his origin and his first few adventures and stuff like that. So if you want to start there, that's a good place to start for the character. Now, how I got introduced to the character as a kid was actually through this book right here, Year's Best Comic Stories, issue 61. So back in the 80s, DC would do these blue ribbon digests where they would reprint a bunch of their best stories, and you could always find these on the newsstand, like in grocery stores and drugstores and stuff like that. So my parents bought me this one day. Something about the cover caught my eye, so they bought it for me, and the very first story really grabbed me. So the first story in this book was called Anatomy Lesson by Alan Moore, and it was a story about the Swamp Thing. And it was the very first story Alan Moore did to kick off his legendary Swamp Thing run. And so just something about it, like I didn't get the story, like I was too young, the story was way too over my head at the time. Just the artwork and everything just grabbed me about this story, and just something about it really fascinated me. This story, it's really good, and Alan Moore's run is really good. Now, the interesting thing about this is in this very first story, it has a character called the Floronic Man, and the Floronic Man is Jason Woodrue. And so this character is in the very first issue that Alan Moore wrote, and it's part of the first arc he does in the Swamp Thing series. Now, what's cool about this is this character is in the trailer for the new Swamp Thing TV series. So what I'm hoping they're going to base the new series, at least some part of it, on Alan Moore's run. So if you really want to get the best of the Swamp Thing, is pick up this run by Alan Moore. It's been reprinted like tons of times, it's one of those runs that's really easy to get because it's been reprinted so many times in as a graphic novel. So I would start off with Dark Genesis first, and after Dark Genesis, get the Alan Moore stuff and read that. And then you would have a really good foothold on the character. So this was my very first introduction to the character. So now my second, exposure to the character as a kid was this comic right here. Now this is another story from the Alan Moore run. I saw this on the newsstands. The cover caught my eye, intrigued me, so I picked it up. And this is American Gothic Part 2, issue 39. So the gist of this comic basically was there's a town of vampires that town had gotten flooded, and it was full of vampires, but the vampires survived. Now they just live underwater in an underwater town, and they're coming up and terrorizing the locals. And now because of they've kind of evolved. One of them has evolved into this strange creature underwater, and so the town people are trying to deal with this. And then the Swamp Thing goes there and kind of faces off against this creature and these underwater vampires and stuff. So again, like the artwork really caught my eye and just really got me, intrigued me. And then as I was a teenager, I would pick up various back issues here and there at comic shops and stuff of Alan Moore Swamp Thing. And then when I got into my 20s, like early 20s and stuff, I just went and picked up all the graphic novels of all the Alan Moore run, and then I could just read it uninterrupted. And it is really good. It is some of the best comics I've ever read, and I definitely would recommend anyone to pick it up. So I'm hoping the new series is going to be based on this, or have the tone of the Alan Moore run, and as they take it seriously and kind of have the philosophical elements that the Alan Moore run had. And Alan Moore run really took the character to a new place beyond what the original creators had intended. And he does an anatomy lesson has a really good, interesting twist to the character's origin that was really unique, and it's something that unfortunately got retconned out in current DC, which I really wasn't a fan of. So yeah. So that's what I'm hoping that the new series is based on the Alan Moore run, and I'm hoping the new series is going to be really good. And now I just have to figure out where I can watch it, and hopefully it's just appears on one of the streaming services I already have, just to make it easy for me. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. Thank you to all of my subscribers, and thank you for watching this video. And if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to hit the bell icon for notification when new videos are uploaded.